Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Gestalt therapy and cognitive therapy. So we will start with Gestalt. And Gestalt involves being aware, more fully aware of what's happening in our present moment experience. So oftentimes we're caught up in thinking about past events or worrying about the future, and we're kind of missing out on what's happening in the present in our bodies and minds. And one of the key ideas behind Gestalt is to help us to integrate different aspects of ourselves so that we can feel more whole. When we push down different parts or avoid different parts of our experience, it's kind of like trying to hold a balloon underwater. You're avoiding certain emotions or certain experiences, and then the moment you let down your guard, it comes bursting up, and there's water, all over the place, and it can be a big mess. And so what we want to do is we want to learn to integrate all aspects of our experience so that we're not trying to hold something back or resist anything. And so it doesn't mean that we don't deal with past events at all, but the way that we deal with them is by bringing them into the present, because that's the only place where we can really address them. And so one thing that we'll do is called experiments, and that might involve, for example, let's say you have an unresolved conflict with somebody. I might ask you to imagine that that person is here in the room and to actually carry out a dialogue or let that person know how you're feeling about the situation. And so other techniques will also involve being not only aware of what's happening in our minds, but also what's happening in our bodies, because again, that's another part of ourself that we want to integrate so that we have sort of the whole picture of our experience. So I might ask you to identify what your body language is saying. For example, like if you were to be maybe writhing your hands, I might ask you what your hands are saying. So those are some basic techniques we'll be using in Gestalt. And next I want to explain a little bit about cognitive therapy. And so with cognitive therapy, we're going to be looking at the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And we're going to be looking at how our faulty or inaccurate thinking can sometimes lead us to have more disturbing or distressing feelings and even behaviors that maybe aren't so helpful for us. So I can give you a little example. Let's say that you're feeling sad in a certain situation. So we might kind of start to identify what are some of the thoughts that you're having when you're feeling sad in this situation. And we'll see if there are any inaccurate thinking patterns like I'm worthless or I'm not good enough. And we'll start to challenge some of those thinking patterns, and then we'll develop what's called cognitive restructuring, which are new or more accurate ways to think about the situation. So we start to train our minds to think in a more accurate way, and then as we do that, we find that that influences our feelings and behaviors, so that maybe when we change some of those faulty thinking patterns, we don't feel so sad anymore in that situation.